Humanity, I love you all with all my heart, with all my might. I'm so Ray. As you know, my videos are about infinite love, infinite energy, infinite creation, because this is exactly who we are with the human race. So I'm talking about infinite veto powers freedoms. Okay, so let's continue. So what the video feed stopped. So let's just talk. So I was talking about infinite veto powers freedoms. Okay, and what it means. So say for example that there is a petition because of an infinite veto powers freedom exercise. A citizen decides that I think from any constituency, we need to repeal that law, or we need to remove this official from office, or we need to have a referendum, or we need to do this, or we need to do that, right? And the discovery happens as a result, right? So when that happens, right? So depending on the level of governance, right? So if the matter of law is at the local seat of that constituency, then it's just the constituency of 10% of that of any constituency. So then that constituency does the yes or no vote for that specific issue, right? But if it's say a central government, uh, everyone, right? All the whole Republic of planet Earth, because it's a law, it's a legal a matter that impacts everyone, then that petition with the yes and no vote, you know, applies to everyone. So everyone votes on it. Everyone votes, even if it's only 10% that petition from one constituency. Okay, why? Because in that way, because at each of these stages, discovery, hearings, referendums, petitions, removals, anything, vetoes, everyone is notified of these. Is this distributed? This is a transparent process. It's transparency, accountability, privacy, full visibility, and full disclosure freedoms. So everyone, right? Everyone participates. Everyone is notified, is informed. So when it's a matter of law that impacts everyone, it's important that even if it originated from one veto of one person and then it led to 10%, because of the findings, 10% of any constituency requested that law to be enacted as a petition, right? Or like the removal of an officer, or the a referendum of law, or anything, depending on the level, then everyone gets involved, because this yes no vote matters, right? Because if it's a law, a central law, then okay, so that petition gets into a yes no vote, right? So everyone votes in it, right? And the threshold is just whoever gets the higher majority, yes or no. Why? Because there is no, at this stage, there is no need to really have a supermajority of 90%. Why? Because after a yes no vote, right, then new veto powers can be exercised and new discoveries can be found. So then another round starts after that. And in this way, the system has checks and balances, right, to make sure that this is something that truly is actually important. It's actually important because if it matters, one person can stop it. One person, one citizen that sees something that no one else sees, because everyone is being informed. You see, this is why this is important. This is why this is important, because even if there is a referendum, right? Even if there is a referendum on a matter of law at the central government level, and there is a yes no vote of the entirety of the citizenry of the Republic of Planet Earth, and the yes says, okay, yes, so let's do this law. Then after that, anyone still can do a infinite veto powers freedoms exercise, because there might be new, and then what that does is that there is a discovery of that result to make sure that this is actually the right course of action. And in this way, you see, it's very difficult. It's impossible, really, to do something that is malfeasance, because everyone is watching, everyone is actively engaged to make sure that this is actually something that matters, that really matters, that is doable. And if after those vetoes, then if it's yes, say a referendum, say to enact a law, or or petition to say remove a law, right? Then it goes to the central seat after all the vetoes are completed, and there's no more discovery, because this yes no actually, okay, yes, let's do it. And so then the central seat does the final vote, right, of that 90% threshold. And if that happens, right, when that happens, then after the 90% threshold, then new veto can come in place, because new findings can come to make sure that this is actually the right decision. You see, so that's why it's called infinite veto powers freedoms, because it's an infinite mechanism that we have to make sure that we have checks and balances, and anyone has the ability to do so to avoid malfeasance or something. Or if there's a matter of law that matters and it would benefit everyone, then anyone can petition, anyone can veto, anyone can do anything that is required, right, to enable that. So the central seat does the consensus and the deliverance, and then after that, still more veto stages happen. And then if everything goes well, in the end, well, it becomes law. And even after it's law, that can still be vetoed, and that can still be petitioned, and that can still be referendumed, right? And the officials can be removed or anything, because it's these infinite veto powers freedoms. Okay, so this is a fundamental freedom. So you see, that's how that mechanism works. And this is extremely important because the central seat, the legislative branch, has just in this way, the system is very much alive, and everyone actively participates in matters of law, matters of governance, right? Checks and balances, because everything is distributed. Everyone knows everything. Everything is transparent. There's visibility and accountability, and full visibility, full transparency, full accountability, and full disclosure of everything. So nothing will happen that is not good for us, because everyone knows, and there will be veto always, because infinite free will. So this is a power that we have as infinite eternal creators. So that's examples of how the infinite veto powers work. Infinite veto powers freedoms work. Another example. So I spoke about two levels, right? I spoke about the local level and the central level of governance. Two levels, right? Each of them have their own elections. So the way it works is the first, in the cycle of elections, the first election cycle is local governance. All the local seats, there is an election across the Republic of Planet Earth every year. And the first year of the cycle is local governance. So all the elected officials, are voted in. Everyone participates at each level of constituency. 5,000 citizens represent one seat, right? You vote for your constituent. Okay, that's that. Then the second year is the judicial branch, the judicial level. And the judicial level is 2 seats for 10,000 people. Same as the local in terms of 1 for 5,000, but in this is 2 for, so it's a little bit of a bigger electorate. So it gives you 2 for 10,000 citizens. Why? Because there's a judge and there is a superintendent. So what is the meaning of this? So then that's the legal system, right? The court system. So the laws are heard at the constituency level rather than the central level, right? For big matters of law, constitutional law, we're talking about local law or any law or any infringements or anything that happens, any breaches or any laws that any matters of law discussed at the local level, and this level is the judicial level because it's 10,000 citizens, and that's the jurisdiction. The jurisdiction is 10,000 people, right? And at that level of jurisdiction, then that's the second level of governance. And then the third year, and then again, it's the same as the local. So each elected official cannot, the terms are 3 years, and they can only run up to 3 times, consecutive or non-consecutive, for office. So for each type of, if he's a superintendent, can only be a superintendent at any level of any in any constituency for 3 times. A judge, same. A local official, same, only up to 3 times. A total of 9 years, but in 3 different terms, up to that. That's it. And then, so why this matters? Because, say for example, that in the judicial, the court, right? The court system, this court of appeals, right? This levels of appeal. So meaning there's 3 levels of appeal. So you got low court level, medium court level, and high court level. So any case, anything that gets to a court, can have 3 levels of appeal, right? You have the due process to appeal up to 3 times, right? If something, anything, right? So then, so the judges are not voted in to pass down sentences or verdicts or give directions or make decisions. No, they're only there to ensure the due process of law, the legal freedoms, meaning all the guidelines and procedures are in place. They're just there to oversee, to make sure that, to lead the sessions in a way to make sure that everything is according to infinite freedoms and legal freedoms. That's the role of the judge. So then there is the superintendent, and the superintendent is the one that enforces the verdict, the sentence, the decision, the direction, right? And that same superintendent that enforces that is also the leader that leads the police force of that constituency of 10,000 citizens, right? That's the ratio. So, but then who makes the verdict? Who makes the sentence? Who passes down the sentence? Who gives directions? Who makes decisions? The jury. And the jury is made out of jurors. And who are the jurors? Well, they're citizens of the specific constituency where this matter of law is being discussed, right? Also, there is the flexibility that anyone from any constituency can have their matters heard at any level of jurisdiction of any constituency in case of for efficiencies. So you can have anyone from any constituency having their case being heard in that constituency as well, in case for efficiency reasons and transparency reasons. So okay, so then what happens then? Well, so first, judges, they're not, say for example, because of efficiency reasons and because of transparency reasons, judges, say for example, you run for a given constituency, right? You run for a given constituency. You're not going to be the judge of that constituency. You're only running for that constituency. You're going to be a judge. So all the judges that are elected as a result of the second year, the cycle of elections, the second year, they are randomly selected, equal in status, to actually be the judge of one specific constituency for 1 year. So randomly. So in that way, they're not running for a constituency because they have a special interest group or a special interest for that constituency. No, they're only using that as a conduit to be elected, right? So to be voted in. So because for any reason, because they might live there or because any reason. So it doesn't really matter, because in the end, they're going to be randomly allocated to a specific jurisdiction, to a specific constituency, no matter where they were elected. And that lasts for 1 year. And for every year, so it's 3 years, right? A term. So at the end of each year, then you get randomly rotated to a different constituency. So in one term, if you're a judge, you're going to be rotated 3 times, 3 different constituencies, and you cannot hold the same constituency ever again. Okay? So it's fair in this way, because you're running as a judge not to represent a specific group or a specific interest. You're running just to, as a public servant, to uphold the freedoms and the republic, because you're not there to pass down sentences anyway. You're there to oversee and procedures, due law, make sure that the law is followed, legal freedoms are respected. That's why you're there. So like a witness, like someone that can actually make sure that things are happening the right way. And then, so there is a superintendent. The superintendent then is the same. So the superintendent, if you run for superintendent role, then you also randomly allocated, to any constituency, right? Because of that same reason, to avoid bias and fallacies and things like that, right? Special interest groups and any of that. And it rotates every year. So, okay, so that's that. Because you're running for office, because you want to serve, not because you want to have power, because there's no power, because there's infinite veto powers, freedoms to stop you from abuse of powers of office or malfeasance. Okay, so that's that. So who's the juror? Well, the jurors are randomly chosen, equal in status from the constituency where the case is heard. Whether the person lives in that constituency or not, that is being heard in that specific constituency, matters not, because of efficiency reasons. But the jurors are chosen from that specific constituency for matters of efficiency. Okay, so there is 3 levels of appeal, right? So 3 levels of the court system has 3 levels. So the first one is low court level, right? So it's cases that are essentially under the jurisdiction of one constituency. So meaning there is only 10 jurors from that constituency. So the jurors from that constituency, right? The jurors from that constituency are the ones who pass down sentences, verdicts, and give directions and make decisions as to matters of law. But and there is a threshold for the consensus to be reached after the hearings, conferences, any sessions. So when the final decision is made by the jury, right, the 10 jurors, if it's a lower court level, then everyone is notified in the Republic of that specific decision, of that specific case. And after that is the case, then before that actually happens and is enforced by the superintendent, there is infinite veto powers freedoms. Because the jury might be biased and it might actually be the wrong decision. So anyone can veto that. And then a hearing starts, a discovery hearing, to make sure, to provide the reasons as to why this might be the case. And once this is done, then with the new evidence and the new findings, then the jury, the same jury, engages in consensus until the threshold of 90% is met. And then after that, then infinite veto powers freedoms still apply until everything is fine and no need for that, and it's actually the right decision after deliverance. And then the decision is made and then is enforced by the superintendent if it's required to be enforced. And the judges is there just to oversee procedures, due law. So you see, it's very fair. It's very fair because it's there to make sure that anyone in the court system that is part of it, right, that is part of that, can have a fair due law, a fair due process of law. Whoever you are, whoever you are in that matter of law, whoever you are. Okay, so then that's that, right? So then, very important, levels of jurisdiction, right? So say, for example, that the person that's been passed down, say, maybe some decision has been made, any matter of law, right, by the jury, and then veto power freedoms happen and all that. And that's the final decision. Well, after that, that individual, that citizen, can still appeal. And that appeal then goes to a medium court level, right, which in this with new jurors that are chosen, and obviously it will be a different jurisdiction, because the jurisdiction is also changed, because in that way you have a new superintendent, a new judge as well, right? Right? Because in that way there's no bias there either, if required. In some cases, it can still be the same jurisdiction, the same constituency, because it's the jurors that really matter when it comes to the decision making, because they're the ones making the decision. So the superintendent is there just to enforce it, and the judge is just there to oversee. So what happens then? So when you go to the middle court level, then it's 20 jurors, new jurors, right? But not from one constituency, but from two constituencies. So that's the level of jurisdiction. Two constituencies now come, and each of them has 10 jurors, right? Each of them has 10 jurors. And this is 20 jurors, you see, because you need more people now, because this person appealed, so there must be a reason why they appealed. And these hearings will be heard. If that person appealed, that person might not appeal, that individual, that citizen. So then, again, infinite veto powers freedoms apply after the decisions are made by the jurors at that level as well, after the 90% threshold is met at that jurisdiction level, which is two constituencies now, 20 jurors, you see. The higher you go into the levels, the more jurors, the more witnesses you have, the more people are involved in the process, the more transparency. So then say that all the veto, happens and all that. So then the decision is final then, and no vetoes take place. Well, that person, the decision can be appealed for a final time, right? And this appeal is the high court level appeal, right? And this high court level appeal, the jurisdiction of it is new jurors, is 40 jurors now, 10 jurors from 4 different jurisdictions, from 4 different constituencies, new jurors, right? New jurors, right? New jurors. So in that way, then the decision is even more transparent, because the person that this person has been appealing 2 times, you get to the third level, right? The highest level, the high court level, there must be a reason why. But then again, there is veto powers as well, to make sure that the final decision that is reached by these 40 jurors, the jury of these 4 jurisdictions, right? These 4 constituencies, is accurate, right? And it has to be, the threshold of 90% has to be met. The threshold of 90% has to be met. So you see, it's very fair, because infinite veto powers freedoms, ensuring that freedoms are of the utmost importance, right? Infinite freedoms of our republic. So you see, that's the role of infinite veto power freedoms at each level. So also so there's the committees as well. So, and the committees are formed from the central seat level, legislative. So there is 5 committees in place, and the committees are formed consisting of 20% of the total pool of elected candidates, right? All chosen randomly at the same time, so they have the same probability of being chosen for any committee, and no one can hold this one committee again. If you were, say, a member of a committee, you cannot be the member of that committee again, ever, right? So because there is 5 committees, so there is 3 terms that you can do, right? and you are a member of a committee for that term. So there is 5 committees, so you would always have 2 extra. So you would into your 3 terms if you do your 3 terms. You see, so you will be able to be a committee member for all the different committees if you are an elected official for three times, because that's the limit. So there's committees, right? And these committees are there to oversee. They're oversight committees, right? Checks and balances of all sorts. So then again, for a committee to make a decision, it has to be a consensus of 90%. But then that consensus can be also challenged. It can be vetoed by any individual with infinite veto powers, freedoms. And then the discovery starts and the process starts again until no one vetoes, and then they allow that 90% final decision to pass. And then it's not law, it's just a decision for authorization for something to happen, because they're not making law at a committee. They're just authorizing, allowing certain things for governance and checks and balances. But they're not passing law, because the law is enacted by the supermajority of all the central seat constituents voting for that matter of law, for that 90% threshold. But once that 90% threshold is met, still you can veto it. So you see, at all levels, the infinite veto powers, freedoms apply. So, and then there is also, out of the central seat, which by the way, the ratio is 1 seat, 1 elected official for 20,000 citizens. And this happens at the third year, the third cycle. It's also for a term of 3 terms and 3 years cycle. You see, so every 3 years, there is 3 elections every year, and the whole system rotates like that. So it's very efficient. So now, a very active democracy. Everyone is participating actively. It's direct democracy. Everyone is informed, right? Because of transparency, visibility, full disclosure, privacy, and accountability freedoms, and infinite veto powers, freedoms, and everything else. So everyone is informed at all stages of all decisions, at all levels of governance. All levels of governance. Committee, central, referendum, petitions, removal of office, judicial, local, all levels. So everyone can veto if required. Okay, so that's that. But then, because remember, 1 for 20,000 people, right? So that's less, right? But this is like big matters of law because it's a central government. So it's the least important one. Why? Because local governance is the communities, right? The most important, small. Then law, right? So we are law abiding. So meaning legal freedoms are enforced. So we actually, have that. So that's why the second cycle, the second year, is the judicial branch, right? Because that's the order. So you need the community and then the law for the community, right? The constituency. So that's why it's the second cycle. Then the third is when all the communities and all the jurisdictions of the court level system, right? All the constituencies, all the jurisdictions, and all the constituencies of the local government come together as one, and that is the central seat, all coming together as one, you see? Because it's the matters that affect the entire republic, the whole republic, on Earth and outside Earth orbit, the Republic of Planet Earth. So this is why it's 20,000 people rather than 10,000 or rather than... So that means that... So what that means is that the jurisdiction of the... say the judicial is a little bit bigger than the jurisdiction of the local seat, right? Because it's 10,000 people, but it's the same in terms of number of representatives, because the local has 1 for 5,000, right? That's the constituency. And the judicial is 2 for 10,000. So if you divide it, it's 1 for 5,000, but it's 2 at the same time for that jurisdiction, because it's a bigger group, because, it's efficiencies. Again, for court level systems and all that. So matters of law, right? So they're not as common as, say, local governance. Local governance is more active. That's why it's central. More. It's more. It's it's like 1 for 5,000 rather than 2 for 10,000, because it's a little bit of a bigger jurisdiction for the core system. So it allows for efficiencies in the system. So then the third level is bigger, right? Because it's one representative for 20,000 people. So you see, that means that there is an equal number of local officials as there is an equal number of judicial officials, right? But half of those judicial officials are judges and half are superintendents, whereas all the local officials, elected officials, are just local representatives of that community that the Heritage and Legacy Office bestows custody, duty of care for the 3 years of the term of all the assets of the republic, the government within that community, because all the assets of the government anyway are owned by the Republic of Planet Earth. They're just the custodians. They just have custody over them, the duty of care to ensure that excellence of care is delivered to as public servants of public services, whatever those assets are within that jurisdiction, that constituency of 5,000. If that's the local, that's the role of the local official, to ensure duty of care, that of the assets of that are bestowed to them. That duty of care is bestowed to that official for the period of that term of 3 years for by the Heritage and Legacy Office. Okay, so they can make sure that they are the person that's serving the people to ensure that those assets are looked after, that public property that is owned by everyone. And obviously, if the malfeasance, petitions can be made for removal or anything, right? Because there's hearings and all sorts and discoveries, infinite veto power terms. So then let's talk about the highest level, which is the one that has the least. You see, it's less because it's 1 for 20,000. So it's a less number. But because of the matter of it, because it's everyone that is involved, then you have the committees, right? So each member will be a member of a committee for at least a term, right? So then there is the executive office. So the executive office is essentially consists of 5 departments, right? The Department of Defense and Self-Defense, the Treasury, the Department of Justice, the Department of State, and the Heritage and Legacy Office. So these are essentially these vehicles that are part of the executive office that are there to essentially have efficiencies of distribution of administrative of the administration of the state, because they're the official that is elected. It's not appointed. You see, it's elected, and they're chosen from the pool of elected candidates from central seat election cycles. Randomly chosen, equal in status, 5 of them, and each year, and they're gonna be the secretary of that department, because I'll explain that in a second. So they will be the secretary of that department for a period of 1 year, and then after a year, they stop being the secretary, and then 5 new people are chosen from the pool of elected candidates from that cycle of the central seat. Every year it gets rotated, and a candidate cannot be cannot hold the same office, the same the secretary of, I'd say, a department more than once. It's only once, and they cannot be the secretary again. So you see, it's very unlikely that they will be chosen as a secretary of a different department again in that same cycle after a year because of the numbers. But if it happens, it happens. But it's random, you see. But they cannot be, if, say, for example, it's very unlikely, but in the unlikely event that one elected official after each year that gets rotated gets randomly chosen again for a department, in 3 years and these 3 consecutive terms, then they won't be able to do any departments in the future ever again because they've done it already. But that's unlikely to happen. It could happen, but it's unlikely. So then again, fairness. So they do that 1 year. And why? So, but you see, and the executive office still trains all elected officials at the central seat level in matters of standard of excellence. So that everyone, even though if you're a member of committee or you're just representing your jurisdiction, right, your constituency for matters of law, you still are trained in matters of the executive branch, in matters of the executive office, right? Why? Because it's an oversight because of infinite veto powers freedoms, right? And infinite veto powers freedoms to ensure that the person that's being selected as a secretary, randomly chosen from the pool of candidates, right, is actually exercising there's no malfeasance, because everyone in the central seat of government, right, is trained in the role and the functions of that specific secretary, and have oversight over it, notifications and information that is fully transparent and available to everybody. So in that way, you see, then again, there's no executive power. It's only an executive role. Why? Because we are going to engage with other civilizations and other states outside the Republic of Planet Earth. And these states might not have the same system as we do. And because of that, we need one person, a citizen, an elected official that from the central seat, right, to represent us by being the voice of a united republic. And because everyone in the central office, in the central government, all the elected officials are training the executive office roles, then they can still make sure that that person, is actually doing the right thing. There's no malfeasance because of infinite veto powers, because they cannot make decisions anywhere. They're just there as a representative for meetings, for events, for as an honorary almost. Like they're just there for any reason, representing that, because they've been randomly chosen, because they were elected to the central seat. So they don't really have powers or authorities, anything. They just there to act as one in matters that are pertinent to that specific department, if required. Because you gotta understand that if you're as an elected official for the central seat, right, and you were randomly chosen to, say, be the Secretary of State, the Department of State, you're still a member of a committee, and then you still have your constituency. So you see, it's 3 roles. So it's a lot of responsibility. So that's why everyone is trained in the executive office, in case there could be someone else can represent that person, right, or something. If that person doesn't want to do it, or it's not available or anything because of any reason, but that person is there to serve, so that person will be available because they're there because they know what their responsibilities and duties are as public servants, elected officials. They're there to serve the Republic of Planet Earth. But then again, they don't make decisions. They're just there as a voice that represents everyone as one. And then if that person is, say, engaged in abuse of power or abuse of office, then there's infinite veto powers freedoms. So that person can be removed from office for abuse of power if that's the case, or petitions or anything, right? So then again, you see, so that is what the system is, precisely what the system is. So everything is accounted for, right? Everything is accounted for. And the reason why the system works is because of infinite veto powers freedoms and the role that infinite veto powers freedoms play. by ensuring that there is checks and balances at all levels of governance, the local, the judicial, and the central, and the offices that emanate from the central seat, the committees and the departments. These are checks and balances, because the executive office trains everybody and everyone is informed anyway. The public's still informed, and the public can be trained if they like as well, because they're infinite eternal creators and they can veto decisions, because everything is transparent, everything is visible. There's full visibility, there's full accountability, there's full transparency, there's full disclosure and privacy of the individual, meaning the public is private, but the public servant is not. Everything that it does, all the functions are disclosed, distributed, and stored in the ledger that everyone can see. So everyone is informed and decisions can be made in that way. So you see, that's how it works. So in that way, we are extremely powerful as a republic, because we're extremely free, infinitely free, right? So that is the role, you see, that's the role of infinite veto powers, freedoms. And we all have these. One person can do this. You see, checks and balances at all levels of governance. This is who we are, the Republic of Planet Earth. So this is a video of infinite veto powers, freedoms. Humanity, I love you all with all my heart, with all my mind. I love you all with all my heart, with all my mind. We're infinite energy, infinite love, infinite creation. Remember, love is the key that unlocks the infinite DNA structure of the human DNA. I love you all with all my heart, with all my mind. I'm so Ray.